Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Scott Luton here with you back on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's special live stream. Folks, today on Breaking News Now, we're going to be featuring an update from an innovative supply chain leader whose team has rolled out a powerful new tool that's already making waves and raves out in the industry. Stay tuned. You can learn how your team can benefit from it too. Before we get there, let's look at a few headlines here about noon on October 22nd. Hard to believe we're almost in November. Up first, Max Garland and the Supply Chain Dive team is reporting that ground delivery costs are going to remain elevated this peak season, all for what is looking like a record year for shipping rates. We're including links right there in the chat so you can learn more. Secondly, we continue to watch developments across the priority topic of critical mineral supply. And big news there, as the U.S. and Australia are investing more than $3 billion in a joint critical mineral project, or several projects, I guess, over the next 6 months. And then lastly, in automotive news, hey, here's some good news. General Motors posted what some are calling a surprisingly good third quarter with revenues that beat analyst estimates by several $billion. Now, this is going to help the automotive manufacturer overcome a projected 2025 tariff hit of $3.5 to $4.5 billion. How about that? So now that we've covered a few headlines, I want to get to our feature segment here today on Breaking News Now. I want to welcome in a friend, a mover and a shaker, an innovator, Keith Moore, co-founder and CEO at AutoScheduler.ai. Keith, how you doing today?
Doing really well, Scott. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. The weather's getting cooler, as we were talking about in the pre-show, and the news is getting hotter and hotter, and you're driving a lot of that. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about here today. Now, we've enjoyed our conversations this year, both in person at big events and a lot of these types of interviews. But for folks that may have missed some of the news that you've been creating at AutoScheduler, you and the team there, tell us really quick what the company does in a nutshell.
Yeah, sure. So at AutoScheduler, we started about 5 years ago. So in August 2020, we spun out of some work that we did for Procter & Gamble. And so what our solution is focused on doing is they noticed across all of their distribution centers that how people make decisions inside of plants and warehouses has an immense impact on the overall throughput, efficiency, and margins of those operations. And so what we have built is this platform that works to harmonize all the data in the operation. So WMS data, automation data, asset availability, production schedules, pull that into a single place. So you have kind of one source of truth. We are then continuously doing optimization on that data to identify what is the next thing somebody needs to do. What are the next decisions we make for this facility to make sure that we're maximizing throughput, minimizing costs? Where are the bottlenecks going to be? And then we present all that data back so that somebody has complete visibility into how a site is running, what is going to happen, what has happened. And at a network level, are there any potential service risks that we're going to see that we need to start informing transportation or planning about across our whole supply chain?
Keith, I love it. The harmonization and the decision intelligence and the orchestration you and your team are powering out there. And one element you just shared would tickle Lou Holtz, because he, in his book about his time at Notre Dame, he always talked about helping his team and all the really busy college athletes understand what is the most important thing they do now. They knocked it out and they moved on to the next one. That type of simplification is what our industry needs in so many different ways. And of course, as you and I have talked about before, you are really taking so much work and freeing up so much time of the beautiful human element. And I love that aspect of your story. All right. So Keith, the biggest news we want to cover here today is your release of a free warehouse decision agent, which came out about two weeks and a day or so ago. Let's start with this. Tell us what it is first and some of the why behind your release.
Yeah. So as you know, Scott, but for everybody that listens, right, my background is machine learning and artificial intelligence. I've spent over a decade in the space. I've built solutions, not just in supply chain, but across a lot of industries. And particularly as generative AI models have taken off, there's been more and more messaging around this concept of agents in AI. So I have an AI agent that does this and an AI agent that does that. And a ton of it is marketing. But it's also a really new space people are still trying to wrap their head around. I don't think everybody really understands how to use generative AI. And so what we did at AutoScheduler's, we said, well, we've already built the whole data infrastructure for plants and warehouses and supply chain operations to understand those plans that you mentioned. What happens if we take all of that harmonized data and all of that continuous optimized plans that are telling people what to do, and we put large language models on top such that they can distill information perfectly in context for people? And so that was kind of the first step, is how do we build something that makes anything accessible to anybody in the supply chain around their data and their operations?
Love that.
And then the second step was, well, if we're doing that, but not everybody, as anybody who's been in the space knows, right? Doing that data integration, so integrating with ERP, with WMS, with manufacturing execution scheduling is hard. And not everybody wants to go through the slog of doing that integration in order to get a lot of the value that AI can bring. And so I saw this study that was Harvard, it was the MIT study about generative AI, and it said, 95% of AI projects are failing, or generative AI projects are failing. And but deep in that study, and that's the headline that everybody caught, but deep in that study, there was a data point that actually mentioned that despite the fact that only 40 to 50%, I don't remember off the top of my head, of companies are investing in generative AI platforms, 95% of people claim to use it in their jobs. And so that's this concept of shadow AI. People want to be able to use the latest and greatest technology to do their job more effectively, but they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the corporate investment, they don't have the integration. And so the thought behind our decision agent for warehouses is, we have all of this, we have, across our team, hundreds of years of warehousing experience, all sorts of expertise in how to model warehouses, how to run and plan warehouses. How do we build that into an agent people can use without those integrations and release that for free, because those people should get value as well?
Keith, I love it. I love the why. I love how it's manifested into what we're going to talk about in just a second. And it really, we were talking about this pre-show too, the mindset that all of us have to learn. Keith, you're one of the smartest guys I know. You got patents and degrees, and you've done some big things in the industry. I am not. I've had to learn every. It doesn't come out as natural to me, I should say, right? But it's like when we got the Apple IIe back in middle school, right, which is cutting edge technology at the time. We had to stop and really understand what to put in those command prompts, right, to color the page or to create graphics or play Oregon Trail. Well, it's really no different, even though the technology is much, much infinitely more powerful. We've got to embrace that learning mindset and figure out the prompts and figure out the applications. And that mindset shift, would you say, is one of the great barriers that we've got to overcome so that we can really unleash the power of AI and all of its manifestations for our workforce to organizations? Would you agree with that?
Completely. So it's been 2 weeks, right, since we put this out into the wild. And the reality is, we didn't know what was going to happen, right? The intent is we're gonna release this for free because we want to drive value. We want to understand how people want to use it effectively. And what we found is people fall into two camps. There are people that you say, hey, here's access to the system, and they just go, right? They're off to the races. They know what to do. They ask questions. They upload data, and it's able to help them think through things, and they're pretty autonomous, right? And then there's people who they click around, they try a few things, but they're not versed in how to prompt generative models or how to take action off of some of the data presented. And so we found that there's this huge education component that has to come with rolling this out. Is not only do we want to help you run your warehouse, but here are all the things you can do and how you actually do them and the data you should start to provide in order to think through the problem with the agent.
Keith, love it. All right, folks, I'm going to share that before we continue on with Keith Moore from AutoScheduler. I'm going to share the link here, because don't make the mistake I made. I waited to begin experimenting, whereas now I do it daily, right? On different platforms, especially chat, learning prompting, learning better prompting, learning different ways I can apply it and save time. This is another huge opportunity. And whether, I think as Keith mentioned, whether you're in warehouses and have one or a whole slew of warehouses, or outside of space, and you're looking to maybe apply and get some time back in all kinds of different ways, as there's no shortage of manual work that unfortunately we do in global supply chain and global business. So check out this QR code. We're also dropping a link right there. And I got to remind people, it is free. folks. So check that out. Take advantage of the great work that Keith and the AutoScheduler team is doing. And right here, Prex says over on YouTube, this is awesome. Releasing for free. I can afford free. I'm clicking on a link right now. That is outstanding. T Squared, who holds down the fort for us on YouTube, says the Apple IIe was ground zero for those of us who are exposed to coding. Basic was a code and didn't even know it in retrospect. That's a great call out. T Squared, as always. Okay, Keith, now that we've shared the link, folks can go check it out. We've touched on this maybe a little bit, or maybe implied a little bit, but how do you see it? And how have you seen it being used by practitioners and organizations out in the market? And of course, we're talking about the free warehouse decision agent that you and the team have released.
Yeah, so we're super fortunate in that we put this thing into the wild. We didn't know what would happen. We have hundreds of people that are up and running and off to the races. And from what I can tell in the feedback we've gotten, it's been adding a lot of value in the market today. And it's just, for anybody who's used ChatGPT or Claude or any of the Gemini tools, right? Think of it as that is designed specifically to run a warehouse. It has kind of the mathematical competency to think through how you actually do things in a warehouse. It is perfectly seated on all the use cases on, well, why do you slot this way, or how do you plan labor, and all of those things. And so what we're finding is there are some people that are using it on a daily basis, right? They're just throwing in, here's what we think we need to work today. And it's going and helping them think through their shift planning and their labor planning. And here's where we need to be by this time and where the potential risks are. And, it asks questions, right? It prompts you on, hey, here's what I want to do. And it'll come back because it doesn't have access to your WMS out of the gate. And it'll say, okay, well, we need to know how many people you have and about what rate do they work? Where are you normally? Okay, well, what did you do? How did that go? And then it learns that as you go, right? So day one, it's not as good as it is day 5. And people are using it for that. People are using it for, hey, my leadership team just dropped this holiday forecast on me. How do I need to think about crewing my facility week over week, month over month, so that we can execute on this plan? It kind of helps you think through the math of this is what your shift structure should look like and where you probably need to hire and how you need to add people. And then there's the simple stuff too, right? There are people that are using it for, hey, I've got all this work on my plate and here's what I'm doing and this carrier's late. Can you go ahead and draft this email for me that I need to send to them? And coming soon, to a free thing, right? Is we're going to start to integrate with Gmail and Outlook, and you can actually have it potentially automate sending some of those notes out. And so, people use it for really simple things like, I have a problem with an employee, and here's what I'm thinking about telling them. Is that the right way to do it? Because they're not picking, up to the rate we expect. There are all sorts of uses. I asked my team right before this, actually, hey, across all the metadata that we have, can you go find the top 10 use cases? And they're like, there's a long tail of weird things people are asking. And so it's been a lot of fun.
It sounds like it. And I'm about to ask you about the feedback, but I want to ask you, as someone that doesn't code, I started in computer science in college, and I learned quick after the first semester, I hated the iterative way that you've got to learn how to code, right? It just wasn't for me. And folks, again, we're sharing the QR code so you can check it out. But one of the great things, I think, if I understand this right, is y'all have taken your decades of experience and expertise, especially from a world-class warehousing perspective, and have built that platform and AI with that expertise, right? Because the inputs of any AI is so critical. And that's probably what really separates this from so many other similar types of tools out in industry. Is that a fair way of putting it, Keith?
That's a very fair way of putting it, right? Are the generative models being leveraged any different than you would get on a ChatGPT? And the answer is no, right? There are companies that specialize in building generative models. What we have done is we have created all of this seed information inside of how data is extracted that says, here's here are the 12 different ways you can slot a facility, and here's when you want to do each and why you would do that. Here is how you plan labor. And we built all of the tooling around that. So generative AI is really good at some things, but a lot of people are probably hearing about this on the news, right? There are hallucinations that are occurring. If you ask it certain math questions, it doesn't answer them well, right? So we've built not only the corpus of data into this that helps people run warehouses, but there's also all the tooling around it on when I need to plan labor for a shift. Here is how I mathematically think through that. And so when you ask a question, it's not just going and saying, all right, ChatGPT, what's the answer to this? It's saying, ChatGPT, use this knowledge. What are the ways to think about it? And this is what makes it an agent versus just using an LLM. And then it's saying, all right, well, I need to go write Python code to analyze this file and make sure that we're thinking through it the right way and present data back that has the appropriate mathematics done. And turns out I need 12 people tomorrow versus the 15 I had scheduled, right? So it's going out and it's actually calling all these different services and functions to make sure it gets you the best answer that's fully thought through.
Keith, I love it. Okay, so it's been out there in the market for just over 2 weeks, but you've already had scores and scores of folks, hundreds of folks downloading and accessing, which doesn't surprise me, right? You put something valuable out there, folks going to use it. Curious, what kind of feedback have you gotten so far?
It's been really good. We've been thrilled with the feedback. We put it out in the wild as we don't know. It might be great. It might just break. There might be some catastrophic issue that we didn't foresee. But feedback has been really good. People have liked using it. It's pretty intuitive, right? So anybody who's used ChatGPT could pretty much use it out of the box because it's going to be a very similar type of experience. But it's also been really helpful for us. So I would encourage, if anybody does happen to go use it, please provide feedback. If there's things you want it to be able to do, please provide that, right? We have a full team that is just building and adding tooling to this agent. And that tooling is rolled out on a dang near daily basis. So if it's, I need something that particularly solves this problem, or it'd be really cool if it integrated with these systems and can automate these functions. Those are the things, and that's the feedback our team really wants to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the market.
Outstanding. Outstanding, Keith. Folks, again, check it out. And you heard it from Keith. Hey, kick the tires, use it, put it through the turns, and give him give him and his team that feedback. Feedback is a blessing, and it will only strengthen this terrific, very valuable offering. Okay, T-Squared and Prex. I'm looking at y'all too. Check it out. Prex, especially you. You're already clicking the link. Love to get your feedback. Real time. How about that? Okay, Keith, as we wind down this edition of Breaking News Now, I got a couple of final questions for you. I'll tell you, I've had my finger on the pulse of the AutoScheduler team. I've enjoyed meeting you and several of your team members out at events, and of course, doing a lot of these. Y'all been on the move this year. It has been impressive. You've been building out and adding to your trophy case of accomplishments and accolades here in 2025. But I got to ask you the question that the market. You win the Tour de France, or you win the World Series, or you win the Super Bowl, and the next day the market goes, well, what's next, right? So what news, any news you can share about where y'all are headed here as we move into year end and into 2026?
Sure. So we're super fortunate in that we work with some of the largest, best enterprises on the planet, right? The Procter & Gamble's, the PepsiCo's, the Kellanovan's. And because of that, we're able to work with industry leaders that kind of have foresight into what does 2030 look like, and what do we want the world to look like, and how does the platform help us deliver that? And so we are constantly working with our customers to make sure that we are delivering the value needed across supply chain by providing visibility into everything in the plant warehouse, by providing efficiency where we can, and helping to start automating more and more decisions and taking some of the rote decisions off of people's plate and letting people do what they're best at, which is critical thinking for context changes in the moment. And so we're always going to kind of maintain that mission on plant and warehouses. But as you can tell, based on this, we are investing very heavily in AI and how we are leveraging AI to kind of hurdle some of the challenges that have traditionally existed around the siloed nature of supply chain. So as we see, even by the end of this year and into early 2026, the agent today is not going to be the agent that everybody is using, right? It is getting leaps and bounds better every week. We're going to invest heavily there. And without divulging too much, there are some other industries that may not necessarily be plant and warehouse, but extremely asset intensive, large scale, complex operations that we're moving into thanks to some partners and customers. And we're really excited about those opportunities. But the core of what we offer is not going to change, right? Our job is to make our customers successful. leveraging AI and technology to make decisions.
Man, killing it, Keith. I love it, and I love the core mission. Right? How can we enable the beautiful human element that makes global supply chain, global business happen every single day, even in the golden age of supply chain tech? How can we make their days easier to find even heightened levels of success? And so that, as your father Thomas had shared with me, protecting their weekends and their evenings, and that all too important, that balance that our teams need to have, right? They don't live to work, right? They work so they can enjoy their living and go have vacations and enjoy family and stuff, or whatever their passions in life are. So I love that core element of your mission, Keith. Let's see, Prex, man, ask and they shall come back and answer. Loves it so far. He's curious about they're curious about the file limits for uploading the warehouse data to the agent. Any quick feedback there for him?
Yeah, I want to say it's 2 to 3 megabytes as it stands right now. If there's larger files that you want our team to do, shoot me a note and I can get you in touch with the right people, and we can look at raising those. I think we've seen a lot of data uploaded up to this point, which is, by the way, completely sharded out and handled by the LLM. So there's no real security threat there for anybody that might be concerned about it. So that data is not passed to anything. Inherently, everything's encrypted. But if there are needs for larger files, reach out and I can get you in touch with somebody that can probably help.
Outstanding. And Keith, that's a perfect segue, because as we start to wrap here today, for anyone out there that wants to connect with you, wants you to potentially work with AutoScheduler or have you come in and speak to their conference. Now, you've been doing a lot of keynoting and chats out in the industry, enlightening folks just like myself. How can folks connect with you, Keith?
LinkedIn is easily the best way at this point, and happy to talk, happy to make sure we get you in touch with the right people. I find lately I'm completely underwater with meetings all the time, but would love to connect. This is obviously a passion topic of mine, so looking forward to hearing what everybody thinks.
Outstanding. And folks, we're going to make it easy. We put Keith's direct LinkedIn URL right there, and we've also dropped the AutoScheduler URL as well. So y'all check that out, get connected, and make sure you give that pass that feedback along after you take advantage of this terrific opportunity again with the warehouse decision agent from the high-powered, innovative team on the move, AutoScheduler. So y'all check that out. Okay, Keith Moore, really appreciate you joining us here. Before we take off, though, I want to offer up one more resource for folks, in a different vein. I don't have any cool AI agents to offer like Keith, but almost as good. I've got a great white paper on the power of supply chain podcasts. This has been something that's been a passion of ours going back 7-8 years. Check it out. You'll have some interesting stats and some interesting reasons why you need to double check on how this could be a powerful vehicle for amplifying your own personal and business brand. So check it out and let us know what you think. Okay, Keith, I know you got an event to get to. Really big thanks to Keith Moore with AutoScheduler AI. Keith, I look forward to our next conversation already.
Scott, really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Folks, hope you enjoyed today's session and learned from it as much as I have. I've got 2 pages of notes just from the last 20 minutes. But hey, the pace of global business velocity is only getting faster and faster. You got to stay informed by turning to trusted sources of sound information and analysis and new tools. So connect with and follow Keith Moore on LinkedIn. Connect with his team at AutoScheduler, as well as me and the Supply Chain Now team for news you can use, tools you can use to stay ahead of where the market is going. So with all that said, on behalf of the entire team, Scott Luton challenging you to do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And we'll see you next time right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.